Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Tommo, and welcome to my pre-race Chinwag for the 2024 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Bit earlier than usual. Got a busy day today, so we thought we'd get this in early doors. Sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late. For some reason, the stream wouldn't go live on YouTube, even though it was live on OBS. Not sure what happened there. But anyway, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Davey, Alex, IBK, Tina, Cyber, Nedo, Martin, Randy, Doomda, and hopefully as well, because of this slightly different start time, plus of course audio only, right? If you want Spotify, Apple Podcast, Bosch, and we've got some different people in the chat that don't typically make these live streams. So thank you very much for coming. I do appreciate you all taking the time. Dorian in Kiwi land, love it. Love knowing that there's some Kiwis out there watching me, watching my every step. Let's talk about Baku, shall we? Round 16 of the 2024 Formula One season, a race that typically happens towards the start of the year. It's usually, was it like round 4? I think it was last year. It's kind of towards the start. And yeah, towards the end of the season now, obviously reorganise the calendar to try and, well, ideally to try and make it a bit more efficient in terms of getting stuff around the world. Is that the only reason this Grand Prix has been moved backwards? Perhaps, perhaps not. I don't know, to be honest. But it's always, well, is it always good fun at Baku? It's one of those tracks that's really liable to an absolute clanger, but can occasionally deliver an absolute banger. It seems to vary. It seems to go from one side to the other. Tomo just woke up. Look at his eyes, IBK. Didn't we all just wake up at some point? At some point we were all asleep, and then we woke up, and then we're here. Okay, I actually woke up like 35 minutes ago, so that's enough. Watching from Silverstone Hotel, Dano. Very nice. Very not seen any Valkyries going around Silverstone. Any love it. But yeah, good to be back at Baku. Interesting having Baku back to back with Monza as well, because they are tracks that you would look at and be like, they've got a lot in common. A lot of high speed straight lines, a lot of slow speed corners, obviously a lot of 90-degree corners. The Ferraris typically run well here, and obviously Charles Leclerc won in Monza. Now, was the Ferrari the quickest car in Monza? No, but you got to say, whoever did well in Monza, you got to somewhat back to do well here in Baku. A couple of other changes as well in terms of driver personnel. We're going to get another new driver, well, not really new, jumping in the car, but we'll get onto that. Last 3 poles, Charles Leclerc. There you go, Jayant. Look, give Charlie the car, and he'll cook with the best of them. No doubt in my mind. But what happened last time out? What can we glean? What can we learn from the past? Well, what a weekend that was for Sergio Perez. A sprint weekend as well. Bear in mind, hence the little medal around his neck in this picture. Checo won the sprint and the main race. Now, this was an interesting one because, again, this was towards the start of 2023, and Max had not yet established the complete dominance he went on to establish, because, again, this was towards the beginning of the year. So, obviously, in the sprint race, that is where Max and George had their contact at Baku, which Max wasn't too happy about, and George was like, "Well, I'm not going to not race him because he's Max." It's the start of a villain arc between them two that we've not seen enough of since. I think Russell versus Verstappen has the potential to deliver some sauce for years to come. So I want to see more of it. Hello, Wimbo. Good to see you, mate. And yeah, this was also a race where I know that afterwards Max was this was the race that lit the fire under Max, really, because he couldn't beat Checo in the race. He couldn't catch him in the race, in the full race, and it was after Baku. It was much talked about. It was this race where Max kind of played around with a few things. He found something in the setup of his car, which then meant that for the rest of the season, he absolutely demolished not just his teammate, but everyone. So this was the last race last year before Max started absolutely dominating, absolutely cooking. Which, well, exactly. Perez will never beat him again, and never did. And yes, I remember Karun Chandok had some. He communicated, didn't he, when I was on the pod with him on Sky, that what Jos had said to him, been like he's never going to let that happen again, and he absolutely didn't. Absolutely didn't. Do I look that tired? I feel all right, to be honest. You know when you got something to wake up for, and then when you wake up, you're a bit more like, whoa. That's kind of me this morning. I feel all right, but maybe that's not coming across. So that's what happened last time out. Anyway, double Checo win. Can he do it again? Like I said this earlier in the year not earlier in the year. I said this post mid-season break that, you know, these races in Monza, which he did okay in, big gap to Max by the end, which is a bit concerning. So probably not, but by the standards he's set recently, to be honest, it was all right. This, you got to expect Checo to be like there or thereabouts, especially now that Max is struggling with his car, seemingly almost as much as Checo's been struggling with his. So this is an opportunity for Checo to be like, look, I can do it. Will it be a full storm? We'll see. And then, of course, Singapore as well. Checo's got a good track record around there. So, yeah, it's as much as the Red Bull drop in performance, it's kind of taken the spotlight off of Checo a bit, which I think is good for Checo because he needs to just crack on and just find a way to grind out some half-decent results between now and the end of the year to have any hope of staying on at Red Bull. Because if he does get dropped and he's replaced by Lawson or Ricciardo or someone else, then he's not going to have a seat next year, and that's probably the end of his Formula One career. So, time will tell. Right, driver standings. After 15 of 24 race weekends, this is round 16 in Baku, remember. And, yeah, that gap at the front, Norris Verstappen, 62 points. Now, obviously, a lot's been made of the gap and how, it's done. Norris will definitely catch him. Max has the fourth quickest car. I've seen some hilarious reaching from some Max fans. It's quite funny. It's quite funny how, like, F1 fans, sports fans, not even F1 fans, sports fans are so fickle. It takes nothing for... So... When Max had the quickest car, right, and then you're like, oh yeah, well Max is still the best driver. And I agree, he's the best driver. And then he doesn't have the quickest car. Then oh god no, Max's car's a boat. He's gonna lose the championship. It's Lando's to lose. I'm like, well yeah, but hang on, like that's assuming that these levels of performance stay the same between now and the end of the year. You've got to think that Red Bull will find some way of, even just temporarily, sorting out their issues in that second long break that we have after Singapore. And look, it's just funny. It is funny. It is amusing to me. But 62 points is still a hell of a gap. And the thing is, Lando hasn't been decisive enough. Hasn't, put his flag in the sand and been like, no, this is my team, Oscar. Right, I'm taking this championship. He's given Oscar those ways in. You look back at Monza. Lando, in my opinion, Lando made at least one, but I think two mistakes, really, that cost him. And they were mistakes of his own doing. The exit out of the first chicane, he dropped the rear end ever so slightly, which gave Oscar the run that he needed. So that's one mistake. And if he doesn't drop it like that, and he carries just that little bit more momentum out that corner, I don't think Oscar gets the run that he does. And B, he lost it on the inside, like defending the inside. He lost his rear end again there. Now, is it a tyre warm-up thing? Who knows, right? But I think he made two unforced errors that allowed not only Oscar in, but then Charles Leclerc ahead of him. And without that, Charles Leclerc, I don't think wins that race. If Charles stays behind Lando, even if it's just a McLaren 1-2 that's swapped, I don't think Charles wins that race. So, yeah, he's got to, and this isn't the first time we've said this about Lando, and it will be, if he doesn't win the championship this year, I'm sure himself, he'll look at it as like a real big opportunity missed, because these opportunities don't come around very often, as Will Buxton said when he was talking about McLaren team orders. I think that's something, isn't it? It's kind of, anyone can look at this McLaren situation and take the colour of the team away and where it's based and the Britishness of one of the drivers, and be like, yeah, they're in a situation where they could be closer to winning a drivers' championship and they're not. But like, look, at the end of the day, this is a learning experience for not just the drivers but also McLaren as a team. Oscar's got Mark Webber in his corner, who's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. And he has... All Oscar's loyalty is to his own championship and the Constructors. In terms of Lando's Drivers' Championship, like, you can't expect drivers to care about other drivers' World Championships. Come on. Hello, Will. Good to see you, mate. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out and whether Lando actually changes his approach. I do think maybe he responds a bit too much to stuff in the media as well. I think I like Oscar's no comment line after when he was asked about it. I think maybe a few more no comments would serve Lando Norris. But again, you can look at this team, you can look at it objectively and see that they're throwing away opportunity. But I'll tell you what, as a fan, oh my goodness, McLaren, keep doing this, keep having this problem. Keep because it's great entertainment. It's great entertainment, and you can acknowledge that McLaren are fumbling somewhat here, which is a problem of their own doing by, dropping Daniel Ricciardo, who was a clear number 2 to Lando Norris, and bringing in a driver who had the potential to be just as good, if not better, than Lando, and that is what we're now starting to see. So both can be correct at the same time. Hello, Philip. Yeah, I can restart. I can absolutely restart from the beginning, just for you. Okay, otherwise, driver standings wise, any particular things going on? Bottas is last. I saw a few of you in the chat be like, yep, Valtteri's already been beaten by Colapinto, at least in terms of the battle of the Nil Pois, of which there are 4 drivers, 2 Sauber, 2 Williams, Sargent and Colapinto. But then, of course, Alex has 6 points on the board, so well done him. Very good. Very good. Team standings, Bosch. Right. Red Bull, 8 points ahead of McLaren. That is done. That is absolutely done. Even this weekend, if Red Bull somewhat find performance and Checo delivers a performance like he did last year in that Red Bull, that's done, isn't it? Even Ferrari, man. Ferrari, like, this is, again, the biggest learning from this weekend. Will this Ferrari performance that we saw in Monza mirror to a very similar track in Baku? And then, Singapore, obviously Carlos won last year. You got to think these next 2 races, there's a big points haul on the table potentially for Ferrari. But then it's like when we go to Qatar and Mexico and, Abu Dhabi and Sao Paulo and all that, will Ferrari be able to continue to deliver this performance? Now they've got the new floor on, it feels like they've made a step. They were a bit lost at sea after that Monaco win. But can they actually keep it going and keep it consistent? Actually, I really hope so. I really do hope so. Because of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton in a title fight next year. Oh, phenomenal. Beautiful. Love to see it. Sauber still nil points. A few of you saying about Ollie Bearman in the Haas. Will he be able to deliver points or a points, perhaps? Again, if shenanigans goes on up front, a couple of the top runners take each other out. That's 2 more point scoring positions for the rest of the people. Luke, it's 3 a.m. in the US. Well, it depends where you are in the US, I guess, doesn't it? I guess you're East Coast. That's like 5-6 hours different. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, we all know Ferrari just bought a Monza car like every year, Rory. That is the fear for sure, because they do seem to turn up for Monza. But again, when you've got a car that can excel in Monaco and excel in Monza, which couldn't be more opposite as tracks, you got there's a good car in there somewhere. They just need to dig it out, you know. But yeah, team standings as sit as that basically. Right, predictions time. Bosh. My predictions, your predictions will go back to back. Okay, reflecting on what we believe is going to occur this weekend. And my race winner of the 2024 Azerbaijan Grand Prix is Charles Leclerc. He won in Monza. He wins in Baku. That's the line Croft is going to drop. I think, yeah, I've got no reason to believe that he won't be quick. He's very good round here, apart from when he's being stupid into the wall at Castle. Yeah, he's a bit of a Baku specialist. The car was exceptional, especially on its tyres as well. And obviously, he got that performance out of those tyres, remember, right? People always seem to overlook that it's actually the driver who drives the car with the tyres on. So if the tyres last, it is in a big part because of the driver driving the car. And yeah, I mean, why not? Give me one reason why Ferrari can't win based off their Monza performance with their new upgrade and historical performance from Charles Leclerc. He can absolutely do it. Can he make it another pole position? He loves a pole round here, and I think if he does get pole, he'll probably keep hold of it. So I'm going Charles Leclerc. But what about you guys? Well, 1,135 of you voted, so thank you very much for voting. Make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel so that you can see the community posts where I post these polls, or follow me on Twitter at TommoF1. Although Twitter's exhausting, so maybe just check out the old community page. And your race winner, Charles Leclerc, 31% of the vote as well. 29% Lando Norris. 19% Oscar Piastri. 6% Max Verstappen. So if Max can win in Baku, that's going to be a big dub. That is going to be a big dub. Patrick, good question. Surely Checo's strategy every single race is solely focused on covering Max's competitors. How will that affect his performance? Yeah, I mean, Checo's got to play the 2021 team game here to help Max get that championship across the line. Because absolutely, if Perez isn't taking points off of Lando and Charles, and maybe even Oscar, if you're going to go at a stretch for a drivers' championship, then you know he's not holding up his end of the bargain. And you know full well that Checo will have clauses in his contract where he has to, play ball. And at this stage, again, it's chalk and cheese to Oscar's situation, because Oscar's trying to establish dominance in a team and take everything he can. Checo has had a terrible year so far, and it's his prerogative to stay in Formula One, regardless of whether that means giving up a position or playing ball and helping out Max. So I agree, Patrick. I think that absolutely has to be the prerogative, and that will reflect in his performances. In his results, should I say, not his performances, in his results, if he is compromising his own race to help out Max. But again, from our point of view as fans, watching the broadcast and taking in externally, we might look at that and be like, oh no, Checo's just washed. But actually, Red Bull will have the data to be like, oh no, his pace is this because he's doing this. So the teams are always way more educated of the nuance to a driver's performance than we are. Now, of course, they also have financial, bias built in, right? That they're going to factor in that we also don't see all of the permutations of. But it's a good point, though, Patrick. It's a good point. So, yes, Charles going to nip Lando here at Baku. 31% to 29%. What about Bang and Drive? Who's going to deliver the heat in Baku? Is it going to be warm in Baku this time of year? I do not know. I've got Ollie Bearman. I'm backing my boy. Okay. I'm backing the boy from Chelmsford, who I interviewed earlier this year. Great lad. And yeah, I think he's going to have a really strong weekend. Couple of reasons. So, of course, he is a bit of a Baku specialist in F2. He did the full clean sweep last year, where he won he went first in practice, qualifying, put it on pole, and won the race, and got fastest lap. I think he got all four. I think he's very good round here, and it was with bent steering as well, so that was impressive. Ollie loves it round here. He's very good round here, and he's had so many FP1s for Haas. He's obviously had that Ferrari experience. I think banger, obviously relative to his inexperience, but I think he's going to run really well here. I think this is a great race for him to jump in. And maybe you know what? It's not even British bias. It's Chelmsford bias. It's a specific town bias. Sorry, city. It's not really a city, but technically it's a city. Ollie Bearman, banger drive. I'm backing it. Are you backing it? No. Charles Leclerc, 21% of the vote, is your banger drive for the 2024 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. 10% Sergio Perez. Finally, Checo's getting some credit in the banger drive category. As my internet is dropping frames harsh right now. So if you're live on YouTube or watching on YouTube, I do apologise. There's literally nothing I can do. We recommend, YouTube saying, we recommend that you use a stream bitrate. Well, yeah, I'm trying to use a stream bitrate of 6,800 kilobytes per second or higher, but it's gone back up to 3,000. We'll be fine. We'll be fine, everyone. Okay, it's because I'm streaming. My internet just doesn't like me streaming in the morning. You know what's going on here. So yeah, Checo 10%, Piastri 8%, Ricciardo 7%. Again, these are important races for Daniel Ricciardo between now and the end of the year. I think he let himself down in Monza with a very, very novice, very, very rookie mistake on that first lap, pushing off Nico Hülkenberg. Recovered well in the race, but without that, should have been in the points. And he needs every point, he needs every opportunity he can to show Red Bull, I'm your guy for next year, because otherwise he's out of the sport as well. And I would be fascinated to see, I say this again, right? When it comes to that Red Bull second seat, Red Bull need to try and find the driver who's going to perform best in that car. Whether you deserve it or not is immaterial. Whether you perform well in an AlphaTauri or Racing Bulls, whatever you want to call it, is immaterial. We see drivers all the time who, Daniel in a Renault, great. In a McLaren, not so great. You see it so often that performance in one car does not mean performance in another car. Red Bull just need to make a decision who's going to be the best driver in that Red Bull, because no one's going to be as quick as Max in that Red Bull. That's clear as day. But also, as time goes on, the Adrian Newey news yesterday as well, which I did do a video about, so you can go and watch that after you've watched this stream. The chance of Max leaving to a Mercedes or an Aston Martin just seems to feel even. I mean, if Fernando does leave, then Lawrence Stroll is going to move heaven and earth to sign Max Verstappen. I mean, Toto's already got George and Kimi. Toto might lose out on Max again. Could be crazy. But yeah, that is the thing. That is the thing. That is the thing that Red Bull needs to consider. Who is the right person for that specific car with those specific handling characteristics? Not who deserves it. Because it's in their best interest to focus on who can drive that specific car. I think that's why they didn't go for Carlos Sainz. So I don't know if they were convinced he could drive that Red Bull. Maybe he could. He's very adaptable. But he doesn't like a car as on the nose as Charles Leclerc. So if that's the case, then how's he going to deal with a car that's even more on the nose, like Max Verstappen likes? But yeah, banger drive and race winner, both for you, Charles Leclerc. What about clanger drive, though? Well, for me, I can't actually remember who I put because I did these last night. Zhou Guanyu. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's in a... Well, from my understanding, from what we've heard from Ted Kravitz talked about it a bit, he's in a bit of a Frankenstein car. Sauber are nowhere. Also, Valtteri is just driving quicker than him. So I think it's all just come together to be like, yep, this is going to be another bad weekend for Zhou Guanyu. Sauber were nowhere in Monza. They're going to be nowhere in Baku. Safe bet, I know. But I haven't put him as clanger very often, to be fair. As for you, clanger drive... You've gone Lando, but only 13% of you went Lando. So there was a very big spread of votes here. 13% Lando, 12% Checo, 11% Stroll, 10% Verstappen. So there's no real clear clanger drive from your point of view. And I think, yeah, like you say, Mobs, Joe is a bit of a low-hanging fruit for the clanger drive vote because he's not performing at the moment, is he? It is not a goodie. Not a goodie for him. And then there's Banger Team. Mine is Haas. Now, I think Haas had a lot of performance in Monza that we didn't quite get to see in the final finishing order, right? If Hülkenberg doesn't have that super messy lap one being forced off the track, then he probably doesn't harpoon Yuki Tsunoda, right? And then he's probably delivering in the points. Because you look at Magnussen was only 5 seconds behind Checo at race end before he got his time penalty. Hülkenberg's maybe finishing ahead of Checo. Probably. I mean, by law of, looking at where Magnussen started and that fact that Hülkenberg is quicker in that Haas. And Magnussen only finished 5 seconds behind Perez. Like, there was a big opportunity for points in Monza for Hülkenberg. And the fact that Magnussen could recover how he did and get into the top 10 and still get in the top 10, even with his 10-second penalty. Haas had a lot of pace in Monza. And this is a very similar track, characteristically, to Monza at Baku. So, I'm saying Haas for banger team. If Ollie Bearman having a banger drive. Not necessarily outperforming Nico Hülkenberg, but I think he'll get close. And I think that in itself will merit a banger drive given his lack of experience relative to Nico. Your banger team, Ferrari, 38% of the vote, 21% McLaren, 12% Mercedes, 8% Williams. And Williams will be good. Alex should be good round here. Good in Monza, should be good round here. Mercedes, they're still just a bit up and down, aren't they? Not quite got that consistency of banging in performance week in, week out like McLaren have. And then, first yield. 21% McLaren. I mean, you got to assume they're going to be quick. But then, yeah, Ferrari, I think Charles going to win the race. You think Charles going to win the race? Will he do it, though? Will he actually convert? Time will tell. Time will tell. And finally, clanger team. Mine, Alpine. Low-hanging fruit once again. They've got no power. And they were bad in Monza. They're going to be bad in Baku. And you've gone Red Bull. 23% of the vote. Yeah, I mean, could be. They were all at sea at Monza, and this is a very similar track. I like to think they'd have found something between then and now, but it's not that easy. It's not that easily done. So maybe Engineer Max will have helped engineer a solution to this problem with his having all these telemetry things in the car. We'll see. Time will tell. 23% of the vote. 19% Sauber. 14% Aston Martin. 9% Alpine. Aston won't quite be reinvigorated just yet by the newy news. Baku is Kirby. It kind of is, not to the extent obviously of Singapore, and it's quite bumpy obviously down the straights because it is a street track, so it is pretty bumpy, pretty Kirby. Oh no, I love you. Apologies. DJ, Tomo, thoughts on the debate between Trump and Harris? I have not watched it, so I have no insight to give on the US political landscape, DJ. So they're your predictions. These are mine. I mean, we've only gone one the same, Charles. So we'll see who's right in the end. It's usually you guys, to be honest. Just gonna put my hands up there. It's usually you guys. Finally, Bearman to Haas. How will he do? Replaces Magnussen for this race, this one-off opportunity. Haas could have fought against it, but they didn't. And to be honest, this kind of works out for Haas, doesn't it? Because it gives Ollie, another race. That his first full Grand Prix in a Haas. He's done one in a Ferrari. He'll do one in a Haas. He's still going to do FP1s between now and the end of the year. It is an opportunity for Haas to look at him and get a benchmark as well, him relative to Nico Hülkenberg, a benchmark they won't have next season. So, yeah, good opportunity for Haas, ultimately. I think that he's going to be good. I do. I back him. I back his ability around a track like Baku as well. I think this could have come at a much more difficult time for him. It could have, come along at, I don't know, a Catalunya or a Sao Paulo or something. I think Baku is the perfect place Ollie could do. In fact, you know what? Saudi and Baku, Ollie loves street tracks. And those two tracks are two of his favourites where he's really excelled at in F2. He got pole in Saudi this year, but then obviously had to give it up because of the Ferrari seat. Again, he absolutely dominated in Baku last year. So it's actually worked out really well for him. Really well for him. It's a great opportunity. I hope he takes it. I hope he absolutely takes it. Yeah, he's a tall boy. He's a tall lad. He's a tall lad. Thank you, Subdeep, by the way, for the super chat. Hi, Tomo. First Gasly, then Albon, and now Checo. All great drivers, and that is what is wrong with second Red Bull. Is it too much front, which only Max can handle? Can't believe this logic. Yeah, I mean, look, for three known entity, good quality F1 drivers to struggle so much indicates a issue with be that the environment, be that the whatever Red Bull are doing, they're not facilitating the ability for a second driver to come in and even be close to Max. You look at Sainz coming in at Ferrari and has been close to Leclerc. You look at Piastri coming in alongside Norris at McLaren and getting close to Norris. Even George coming into Mercedes and getting close to Lewis. Like, it just feels like there's a specific thing but it's really hard to say. It's not one thing either. I don't think it's one thing at Red Bull that's not working for these drivers in that second seat. It's just a multitude of factors. But that's why I think that the transfer I would have most confidence in actually working is Ricciardo, because he has driven a Red Bull as quick as Max Verstappen in the past. I know it's in the past, but these car characteristics, Max's driving style won't have massively changed since 2018. So what worked for Max in 2018 will work now. Now, of course, you can argue, since Ricciardo left, Red Bull moved that car more towards Max's style and further away from what Daniel's style used to be. And that could be true. That could be true. But that's the only logic I've got to go on. The logic for Lawson is that he's green, he's young, you can chuck him in, and he can learn that style of car more naturally. But then that didn't work for Gasly. He'd only had a year and a half at Toro Rosso. It didn't work for Albon. He'd only had 6 months. But then Albon was sick in the second half of 2019. So, I don't know. Thank you, Irusu, by the way, for the super chat as well. I'm not going back. I'm all right. I don't need to go back to bed. All right? I'm good. We're calm. Hello, Matt. Good to see you, mate. Morning sunshine. But yeah, I think Bearman's going to do well. I think he's going to cook. Up the Ollie. Love to see it. Right. Any other things to talk about? Thoughts on F2 driver changes? Yeah, I saw about that. So, interesting story from F2. So, Zach O'Sullivan, who was second in F3 last year, has been in F2 at ART and has lost his seat. He's cited funding issues and he's part of Williams Academy. Now, I put a post on Twitter about it and I didn't word it properly, and then there's people. Twitter's so exhausting sometimes. I was like, it would be really nice for Williams to give some clarity on the situation, because there is an assumption that, well, if you're part of a driver academy, the academy, pretty much ensures you get a seat and it's funded. Now, the reality is, of course, the driver has to stump up some of their own money. You look at Dennis Hauger's Red Bull, how many sponsors are plastered on that, right? He's not doing that just for fun. He's doing that because you need sponsor revenue. And the driver academies don't cover it all, right? Which is that's a fair assessment to make. But it'd be good to know how much Williams do cover in an F2 season. Because, say an F2 season is 2 million, which is the number that's typically kind of referred to. Are Williams stumping up 50% of that? Are they stumping up 30% or 70%? It'd be good to know, because Zach has been replaced with Luke Browning, who is another Williams Academy driver. And Luke Browning just finished third in Formula 3, and now he's taken Zach's seat at ART for the rest of this season in Formula 2. So that's really kind of, the optics don't look great on Williams, and I think transparency around that would be beneficial to Williams to know how much are the actual drivers required to, because look, if Williams are providing 40% of the funding and the other 60% is on Zach, and Zach can't deliver that funding, well, if that's what's agreed in a contract, then unfortunately that's just what it is. That is what it is. But to replace Zach with Luke, because then you get people, they're just replace that, they don't want Zach, they don't rate him. That's probably not the case. But it'd just be good to have some clarity and some transparency around that stuff. Transparency is always better. Spent it all on science. Yeah, spent all their money on science. They've got no money for their junior academy anymore. Interesting. And also, yeah, I saw Law, shout out Law VS. He shared an article. It's from a Brazilian publication being like, McLaren have greenlit Bortoleto to be able to talk to Sauber Audi about a seat in 25. So it sounds like it's a Bortoleto versus Bottas head to head for that seat. But also the article says that McLaren would want to do basically a 2-year loan. And I think that kind of makes sense. So McLaren could be like, right, you can have him for 25, 26. If we don't offer him a seat for 27, then he's free. You can have him. But if we can offer him a seat for 2027 at the latest, then we can have him. And I think that is maybe a sensible choice for McLaren, because they do have a very good thing with Norris and Piastri, but also they could have a back-to-back F3 and F2 title winner in Gabriel Bortoleto on their hands. But if you let him go to Sauber for 2 years on some kind of, if we offer him a seat for 27, fine. We take him back. If we don't, then you can keep him. Because Oscar and Lando are still Lando's still one of the youngest drivers in F1. He's still only 24. Oscar's 22. As long as they manage this relationship and they get through this tumultuous period that they seem to be going through at the minute, where it's not gone on blown over crazy, but there's tension there. If McLaren can actually learn how to manage these two long term, then there's no reason to change their driver lineup anytime soon. Bot versus Bort, indeed. Bot versus Bort, indeed. Do you think Danny Rick will be on the grid next year? Look, Katie, I think it entirely comes down to what I was saying earlier about, it's not who deserves the Red Bull seat that Red Bull are going to be interested in. It's who's going to be able to drive this car. And even though, on the balance of it, I think Yuki's outperformed Daniel this year in the Racing Bulls, I have more confidence that, based off the history, that Daniel is going to be able to find a way to drive this car better than a lot of other drivers, even if he's not extracting performance out of this Racing Bulls right now. But I'm only saying that, not because he's got a big smile or he's good vibes, because they have historical data on Daniel Ricciardo. They had 4 years of him. 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18 actually, 5 years of him. He beat Vettel in a Red Bull in 2014. He was, best of the rest pretty much for 15, 16, right up there. With like Vettel and behind the Hamilton-Rosberg battles. He's an incredibly talented bloke. And there's a chance he rediscovers that if he goes back to Red Bull. It's not a guarantee, but it's a chance. Thank you, Gladiator, for this super chat. Between rushing Sargent into/out of F1, the strange arrangement with Colapinto and Sullivan being dropped, not a good couple of years, PR years for Williams Academy. Yeah, I was tempted to make a video on it. I think I'll probably make a video on whatever happens this weekend in Baku. But I do think there is it's been a tumultuous time for the Williams Driver Academy, hasn't it? Kind of quite a few drivers in. Zach's not out of the academy. He's not out of the academy. He's just not got the funding for the rest of this F2 season. So maybe Williams can support him with something else. But it feels like, Colapinto has definitely put himself front and centre for that, Williams reserve role, at least for next season. Who knows from then on? It depends if science decides after 1 year, this ain't for me, I'm off. Someone's offering me a seat for 2026, then Colapinto maybe gets an opportunity to step up there. So I think it makes sense for Colapinto to really align himself with the F1 team as much as possible. Do as well as he can for the rest of this year and then just go all in on those reserve duties from next year onwards. But it's not looked great, is it? It's not looked great. So Tom, in your opinion, does Liam have a seat next year? Look, it comes down to the Red Bull decision, doesn't it? Checo or Ricciardo. It really does. And, they both bring financial backing with them. Checo more directly. Daniel brings big brand awareness for Red Bull. I don't know. Like, if you had to ask me what I would do in that situation, then I think Ricciardo is worth a punt, because Perez just isn't. He's not gonna. He's been at this team 3.5 years now, and it's about as bad as it's ever been this last half of the season. So I see no logic to cling to that Checo's going to get close to Max anytime soon. Close enough. Within 2-3 tenths is all that's being asked. And I've got more reason to believe that there's a potential chance of Ricciardo doing that. So that's what I would do. I would put Ricciardo in. I'd say goodbye to Checo. And I'd bring Lawson up alongside Yuki. But what's actually going to happen, in my opinion, I don't know. There's so much more at play that we're not aware of, and that goes on behind the scenes, and the financial stuff, how much of that, how much can actually Daniel bring to the table in terms of known money into Red Bull racing, not just visibility for Red Bull GmbH. So, I don't know. But one of them's gone. It's Checo or Daniel who's gone. And I don't think, like, everything Checo said, I don't know. I just feel like he's not going to be interested in going to another team. I think he would retire. He's talked quite openly about, how long do I carry this on, being away from my family, blah, 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 which is absolutely, true, right? I think every driver is going to consider that at some point. Some drivers try and manage and they have their, Nico Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen have their, their families often knocking about the paddock, and it's tough to balance that. So on a human level, I absolutely understand that kind of. Checo's had a long career, and he could have a really successful career stateside, be a bit closer to home in Mexico, maybe have a bit of a career in Indy. I'd love to see that. That'd be lovely. Lovely. Yeah, full break after Singapore is probably where more news is going to happen. Well, yeah, isn't Liam Lawson's... I feel like we could maybe get clarity on Lawson, even like today or tomorrow. Because I feel like Lawson's contract was September, wasn't it? They need to make a decision in September, otherwise he's free. Now, of course, first article I see when I open Twitter is... Lawrence Stroll reportedly in talks with Max Verstappen over an Aston Martin F1 2026 move. Reportedly by Planet F1. So take that for what you will. Oh, interesting. There's a hang on, let me get screen share going here. Just having a little look on Twitter to see if there's any source. And we've got this little article. Alpine and Honda found in procedural breach by the FIA. PU manufacturer review process results. 4 PU manufacturers found in compliance for 23 and procedural breaches identified for Alpine Racing SAS and Honda Racing Corporation. CCA confirms that although Alpine Racing and Honda have both been found to be in procedural breach, neither have exceeded the cost cap level. Both Alpine and Honda have acted at all times in good faith. Considering the nature of the breach, complexities of the new financial regulations for PU manufacturers, and the challenges associated with the first year of implementation, is to propose the two manufacturers set their respective breaches by means of accepted breach agreement, which is what Red Bull did, right? Red Bull had an accepted breach agreement when they took on that 7% extra PU ATR penalty. Summary of the ABAs, if accepted by these two PU manufacturers, will be published once finalised as provided financial regulations. Okay. I mean, cool. That's the thing. So there's been some naughtiness going on there. Whoops. Cool. Right. Okay. I think we're done. Thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate you all taking the time. Alita, Jake, Patrick, Gruggs, Philip, GM, C, Phillips, BW, IBK, J Fry, Mustafa, Advait, LJ Williams, Bentungura, Bettengura, sorry, Bettengura. I apologise for that. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you all taking the time. Don't forget to like this live stream on YouTube or after the fact, however you're consuming this. Subscribe, Apple Podcast, Spotify, do all that good stuff, right? Help my ego inflate even more than it already is. My name's Tom. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.